So over the course of the next 5 weeks, I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges that I've faced, on this entrepreneurial journey, and challenges I think a lot of people face but aren't necessarily talked about head on in terms of how they're overcome. They're more so they become rules. In other words, if you don't fit that criteria, tough luck. You got to figure out a way to fit that criteria. I've always been about questioning, the the rules as they are. Why is that rule that way? Why can't you do it that way? Um, Partially out of curiosity, but partially because I think most of the best things that come about are as a result of asking, why are we doing it that way? Why is that the rule? And why can't I break that rule? Um, and so each week I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the problems that I've overcome and how I've overcome it. Some of them are still in progress, but I'll tell you how I've been dealing with them. So for this week, first one, people will tell you all the time, when starting a business, you need a great co-founder. Um, I kind of agree. It can definitely help, but I don't have a co-founder. I don't have a co-founder for several reasons. One, I didn't want a co-founder just for the sake of having a co-founder. I have a lot of capable friends, people around me who are very skilled at what they do, but not necessarily passionate about this idea, not necessarily passionate about building a consumer technology product. And so alignment, founder alignment, is incredibly important. It's much better to be single, if you will, than in a bad relationship. And so the way that I think about it is how can I be most effective? By just finding someone randomly and starting a business with them, by trying to convince one of my friends to join even if their heart is really not in it, or go about it myself and try to kind of address the challenges as they come about. And so I've decided to go with that one. Tackle it myself. Obviously, I anticipate having other team members and other people I'll work with, but this founding portion is all me. It's all my ideas, what I'm coming up with, what I'm designing, all of that. So, how I guess one challenge I would say that the biggest challenge that's present when you don't have a co-founder is it's not necessarily a skill gap. You think naturally, oh, why I can't do all the things, and that's partially true, but you can learn to do most of the things, and I've learned about that, and I'll talk more about um, how I overcame certain skill gaps. But the psychological support that you get from a co-founder, from knowing that person knows exactly what you're going through, not sees what you're going through, from a third person perspective, but is literally in that seat with you. That's something that I definitely feel lacking. And the thing that's helped me get through it is I have incredibly supportive friends, family, girlfriend, all that are um, helping me day in and day out, kind of keep my sanity, keep on track, understanding it's a long, hard road. Um, but at the same time, they can only sympathize. They can't empathize. They don't actually know what it feels like. They just see from how I react and how what I'm going through. And so um, definitely has been a challenge. But at the same time, I think it forces you to rise to the occasion. It forces you as a founder to self-actualize a lot quicker than you would have to in another situation. Not saying one is better or worse, but there are positives to the fact that you have to kind of rise to that level. Um, Advice to anybody who is a solo founder who just doesn't have someone around them that they think is the right fit, or just wants to do it on their own. I think you should absolutely do it if that's the scenario that you're in. You shouldn't just try to get a co-founder for the sake of getting a co-founder. If you have someone, great. That's probably the best scenario. But if not, you can still make something great happen. Um, and I think it's about being open with the people around you about what you're going through, talking things out. It helps. It's helped me at least. I'm a very private person. I don't like to share a lot, but when it comes to my, entrepreneurial journey and founding companies, I'm vocal about that. I talk about, uh, certainly a lot of the things I go through, and I think that's helpful. I'd recommend that to anybody in a similar position. And um, yeah, as for the skill gap, uh, it's tough in the short run, and that you're going to have to master more things, or at least become proficient at more things. But again, when it comes to scaling, or when it comes to hiring more people, you're better equipped to hire since you've already done that job. I can't tell someone what I want designed if I don't even know what I want, in the first place. So, um, same thing goes with branding, marketing, engineering, on and on down the list. By putting yourself in those shoes as a solo founder and having to do essentially every role, you become a much better recruiter and manager and leader down the line. All right, so what did I do this week? The first thing was set up push notifications. Um, did the basic setup for it. It's not fully done. I'm gonna wait till we have everything else in place to kind of finalize it. But the basic setup, asking for permissions, all of that is in place. Mixpanel, also the basic setup done. Again, for the final touches, we'll wait till everything's in place. But again, all the preliminary stuff is up there. Um, Finally, topic detail. Set up the core of topic detail, set up the view. Obviously, some finishing touches in there, but um, really happy with what I got done there. And yeah, excited for this week. So this week, I'm going to focus on the server side. A lot of what I've talked about and what I've been working on has been on the front end, building the iOS app. But there's a whole, obviously, API that this works with, and getting the server up to par is really important, especially for the long run. Um, One thing I did, or started doing, and want to kind of continue to do throughout this week, is get the naming conventions right. Sounds like a small thing, but what certain classes are named, what certain properties are named, these should be clear, these should be consistent. If you let it get out of hand early, it could, spell a lot of trouble down the line. So getting all naming consistent and clear. Second thing is authorization. So as I've been setting this up, authorization has been secondary. If nobody's using the app, it doesn't really matter who can access it. Nobody's trying to, um, hack in and get information. None of that matters. You could pretty much leave it open. However, as you make something, production ready and open to the world, you want to make sure privacy is in place, and make sure correct authorization and authentication are in place. And so setting those up on the server side is something I'm going to focus on. Finally, wildcard, as always, I'll leave that up in the air. I'll update you guys next week. As always, like, subscribe, comment. If you're working on your own thing, I always want to hear about it. Let me know. Talk to you guys next week.